What is going to be? Welcome back to another live Underdog Fantasy Best Ball Draft here. We're going to be doing some more, obviously, Underdog content and stuff like that. But this time, we're going to be doing a draft where hopefully we can get you guys involved as well. Going to be looking into the $5 Best Ball Draft. So if you guys are watching this live, get ready. We're going to be joining that now so you guys can get in on that with us. I think we're going to do 10 or 12 people in here.
Do 12.
All right, so let's get ready to join that. So if you guys are watching this or if you saw the tweet or whatever it may be, head over to the lobby. We're about to join those now. I have to pull it up on my laptop. 1 second. All right, let's see here. You said 12?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm joining now. All right, so I'm in. Let's see, we're waiting for 7 people, so we have plenty of time to, get people joined in there. Let me see if I can tweet this link out too. But while we're waiting, Adam, how are we feeling about Underdog content, all that stuff? How are you feeling about the draft we did the other day? Anything that you are looking to do differently in today's draft?
Yeah, I might try drafting a running back at some point. Also, like after yesterday, it'll be interesting to see if Damian Pierce goes in the 3rd round or the 2nd round. That'll be fun. But no, these Underdog drafts, they've been really fun, pretty much borderline addicting. It's just always happens. It's like, okay, it's my last one, and then it's like 11 o'clock, and I'm either writing or researching or looking at stuff, and I just get in the mood to draft, and then bam, I'm all of a sudden I'm in a 2nd or 3rd or 4th. So
Yeah, that's how it goes for sure. No doubt about that. But yeah, let me pull up the screen here now. So yeah, we're still waiting on 3 people. So if you guys haven't gotten in there yet, there's still time. Still time to do that. Let's go to the draft. We'll get ready for it. So basically what we're doing here now, which is different than what we did on I think it was Wednesday that we did the last draft, or maybe Tuesday.
it was Tuesday.
Yeah, so this one is not the Best Ball Mania. This one's just the standard 12-person league. I think it's $104 to first place or something like that. So there's still, I was telling Meanie about this actually. We were talking about it. We did a Underdog draft for Mean Streets this morning, and if you stack up some wins in basically if you do, I don't know, 10 of these or whatever scale you want to do, if you win like 60 to 70% of them, that's obviously a really good clip. But even if you win like 50% of them, you're looking at a pretty good return. So even looking at these, these $5 12 mans or however much you want to go up on the the bankroll scale, even if you're doing the $10 ones, whatever it may be, definitely some good value here as well if you're able to win those formats. So I guess real quick, any difference in approach for you? Obviously not the large field stuff, only have 11. It's basically like your standard home league, right? Except for it's still best ball. So any difference in strategy here?
Yeah, I mean, you're still looking for upside at the end of the day, but you don't have to get, as different, especially when, like, if you're doing a bunch of these contests, it's not like you have to get incredibly crazy with roster builds and, week 17 correlation and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, best ball, at the goal is to find the most upside, whether it's a 12-person or it's a huge, large field contest like Best Ball Mania. So don't think that upside isn't as important, because it is, but you don't have to get as different with your builds, or you don't have to view it as kind of like a GPP approach as much as you would in the other contests. But you're still looking for upside at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing is correlation isn't as required. Like, for example, in the draft this morning, I had 3 quarterbacks, it's all paired up with at least one pass catcher. So don't necessarily need to do that. It can be more so correlation's still great, right? Like if I was drafting in a home league, redraft league, and if I have Jamar Chase and I get Joe Burrow, great, but you don't necessarily need it. It's not as required. But if you're doing like the best ball mania stuff, I think that is maybe not necessarily required, but it's definitely a very nice luxury to have, and definitely something you should be looking to do. But we're still waiting on one person. So that last person, oh, actually, we just got them, I think. Yep. we're all filled. So hopefully we got some watchers in the draft here that were able to hop in. This is, I believe, live on Twitter and YouTube as well. The draft starts in a minute here. I think the draft timer is actually longer in these ones. Is there? I wonder if there's as quick of timers. Like it's 30 seconds for best ball for the Mania. I wonder if it's 30 seconds for these. Do you have any idea on that?
I think I thought it was the same timer for everything, but I was too distracted with having the 112, which is the worst. So
Yeah, let's see where I'm at. I am at 10. So yeah, it is impossible for me to get a top 5 pick in these underdog drafts, I will say. So let's talk a little bit about that because me and Meanie were talking about it today as well. Any like optimal strategy for you? Like if you were able to go into a draft tonight and you had to pick where you wanted to go, what slot are you looking for?
I mean, the spot I had the other day, I think, was 4, and I do like 4 is really nice because I think there is a tier drop after maybe 5. Like I would say top 5 because I think pretty clearly, at least in an underdog, even though it's half PPR, like I think there's a clear tier drop, at least for me, after Taylor, McCaffrey, Jefferson, Kupp, and Chase in terms of upside. So like I'm definitely thrilled if I get a top 5 selection, but like it depends. Like there's a lot of teams that I've loved where I draft like 8th or 9th or even 10th, but Stephon Diggs happens to fall, and that's then I really love my builds. But like a lot of these drafts where I want to go receiver heavy and I pick like 10th or 11th, and the best player on the board is, I don't know, like Harris or someone, like I don't, that's when I don't love how that draft starts. So, but top 5 is pretty easily the best spot to be.
Yeah, top 5 in best ball is kind of where I prefer to be. Top 4 in redraft is where I prefer to be. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously paths everywhere, so I wouldn't be like too worried about it. Like it is, like I've been joking about it because like every time I do a draft these days, it feels like I'm at the back. Um, like especially in like the ones that we've been doing live. But overall, it's not like the end of the world. But if you're top 5, I definitely prefer that for best ball. But all right, so I'm at 10. In terms of who I'm kind of looking at, it's kind of just who falls really at this point. I would like to get Devonta Adams. I don't have enough Devonta. I don't think. Like I still think that he's going to be obviously stud this year. So he's probably a guy that I'm looking for. But if Derrick Henry falls to me at 10, I'm probably just taking Derrick Henry. So
Yeah, Henry's like as he goes right before you. So
yeah,
Henry's interesting because like after he finally has a season where he suffers an injury, it's like I understand he's going to be 29, but like I don't know. I'm not betting against Derrick Henry. And again, it's not like this is full PPR. I know you start 3 receivers, but like we did see too to start the season before he went down with the injury. Derrick Henry was on pace for a career high in targets and receptions. So like I'm not saying he's going to come out and catch 50, 60 balls, but like if he gets to like 30, 35, that could be a huge difference. So this is pretty easy for me. Actually, is it? All right, I'm going to make the first selection because I know I'm taking Saquon Barkley. It's 3rd rounder like a month ago. Now back end of the 1st, early 2nd. I'm debating between Kelsey and CeeDee Lamb. I do kind of like the concept of trying to stack the Chiefs because it's so much easier to do this season. But I went tight end early on our last draft, so I'm gonna pass on tight end and go CeeDee Lamb.
yeah, I like that. I like your call on Barkley. Like even if you look in some redrafts, like
I can't wait to look back at some of the teams. Like if Barkley's as good as I think he's going to be this season,
yeah.
the teams that drafted Barkley in the middle of the 3rd round earlier this summer, they could be the teams and probably will be the teams that have the most success because like if he's as good as a lot of us think, like he's not just a 3rd round player in fantasy, he's not just a 2nd round player in fantasy, he's like a top 5 player in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, same thing goes for Kamara too. Like Kamara back when he was obviously there's a lot of speculation going on about how many games he could miss. Now it looks like he's not going to miss any. He was going in the 4th and 5th round in a lot. Like in Scott Fishbowl, I got him in the 6th round, or maybe the 5th, either 5th or 6th. But even in Underdog, I was getting him in the third round minimum, like at the highest. But a lot of 4th round, even some 5th round. So like I've scaled back on drafting Kamara as much now, just because of how much I got him in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, in June and July.
So you took Kelsey, right?
Yeah.
So you're starting your draft similarly to how I started mine the other day,
Yeah.
except you got Kelsey in the 2nd round, and I took Andrews in the. Did I take Andrews in the 2nd?
I think it was late 2nd.
Had to have been, yeah, because I went Cup and Andrews. So are you planning on not drafting a running back for the first 7 rounds, or? I would have. It's not that I didn't want to. It's just when I was looking at my team, I needed a running back. It was like I don't want to draft Antonio Gill. Like it's the same argument every single draft almost. But
yeah, I mean, I'm probably not going to reach on any. Like, I don't feel the need. I mean, I do feel the need more so in this format where it's not the massive,
yeah,
competing against hundreds of thousands of people. So I do feel the need to like not have as many holes, but also in the smaller field stuff, like having that positional advantage goes a very long way as well. Like a lot of weeks, people are going to be struggling to get 10 points from their tight end, and I have Travis Kelce, who should in a good year be that guy who's you're getting 14, 15 points majority of weeks, and he's going to have that 30 plus upside, which a lot of people just aren't going to have at the tight end position. So that's kind of the process behind that. That's the goal there. But yeah, in terms of running back, like for example, if I somehow get like Fournette or Chubb to fall, which probably unlikely, I'll go ahead and take them, but not going to like reach on anybody in the 3rd round just because I need a running back. I don't feel like I need to do that.
yeah. And the way my team started with Barkley, like I'm probably just gonna go again. If like you said, if somebody falls, I'm probably just gonna go with a hero build, even though like it is just the 12 team contest, but still like it's also the fact that you start 3 receivers and you're still looking for upside, and the receivers that go in the range of some of these RB2s that I'm not thrilled with, they just have inherently more upsides. So even in this format, like I'm not just saying, okay, well I need to like I'm not drafting based on filling my starting lineup. Like I don't care if I'm 9 rounds in and I still don't have a second running back. I just don't care.
Yeah, that's fair. And again, like you're still dealing with the whole concept of the lineup's going to be set for you based on who does well. So you don't necessarily need to worry about that as much. Like I think there's a lot to be said about drafting in redraft when you're knowing that you need to know who you're playing every week. You need to have that confidence in playing those players, which you don't need that in this format. You're still gonna have the lineup set for you. So that is still a big factor here.
Why is Fournette still on the board?
I don't know. just to tease me and think that maybe he's gonna follow me. I mean,
if you
he
were
falls to me,
closer,
it's the
I wouldn't have
easiest
said
pick
anything.
ever.
But like I just what are you 7 spots away? Like he's not gonna make it. But as he continues to fall, I don't understand why any of these running backs are going over Fournette. I understand there was a report that Rachaad White's going to be involved this season, but like that's cool. It's Tom Brady's offense. Like Fournette's going to be out there. This is pretty late for Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, I mean, everybody in front of me now has a running back. 2 of them have 2 running backs. So I'd be pretty surprised if those guys.
I'll be really mad if you
Fournette.
manage to get Fournette at what 34.
Yeah, 34. I mean, that would literally just be the easiest pick ever.
Yeah, that would be a sprint to the podium. There he goes.
Yeah, so that's a bummer. That would have been pretty cool. That is like the kind of stuff that you kind of.
So I was going to ask why Javonte Williams went over Fournette, but the person that drafted Javonte Williams now also has Leonard Fournette, so it really doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now Zeke's going to be, unless Zeke goes here, which I doubt it. Zeke's going to be the only running back on the board here, and again, like I just don't feel the need to like jump at any running back, so I'm probably not going to take a running back.
Well, especially after the Tyron Smith news, the splits tool for FTN Daily, I was looking at it today. Since 2018, Zeke averages like 3 fewer fantasy points per game, like 20 fewer rushing yards per game with Tyron Smith out of the lineup. And that was dating back to some years where Dallas's offensive line was more loaded than it is now, right? They had Travis Frederick and everybody and Lyle Collins. So, like, yeah, it's a huge, huge red flag for Dallas's entire offense.
Yeah, I actually just took Zeke in the 4th round of the draft I just did with me this morning. Started with 3 wide receivers. Or no, I started 2 wide receivers and then 2 running backs. So Zeke was there for me, and I took him. Like, he still has upside. There's definitely some concern there. But again, best ball, still upside there. But again, now, like, it's curious to think, like, where he might fall to in normal drafts. Like, again, still a guy who we know he's going to get the ball. We know he's going to get the goal line work. We know he's going to, but they're going to find ways to get him involved. So there's definitely still a ceiling there. It just depends on kind of where you want to pay for him, right?
Yeah, DJ Moore went right before me, and it was a huge tier break for me. So I'm struggling right now. I'm going to take Terry McLaurin. I don't love my start after that. Like, that's the problem I have with the 12 spot is there always seems to be, when I need receivers, right before I'm up at the 12 spot, there's a tier break. And that's exactly what happened. Like, Waddle I'm lower on in general this season, but then there was a report the other day that he hasn't really practiced in like 2 weeks all of a sudden. So, yeah, the 12 spot is tough. Like, I loved how it started with Barkley and Lamb, but then all the receivers, Pittman, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, that's after that range of receivers, it's a tier break for me. So it's tough. But I don't have as much Terry McLaurin, and I just think he's really good at football. So definitely want some more McLaurin on my teams.
Yeah, I kind of just panic picked Juju there. I'm gonna hope I can get Mahomes. I have Kelsey and Juju, so I thought about just taking Mahomes there and pulling the trigger, but I feel like
Well, the fact that there have been no quarterbacks yet is
exactly
a good start for you at least.
Yeah, I feel like in terms of who's more likely to fall, Mahomes maybe a little bit more likely just because of all the quarterbacks available. I also thought about taking the Zeke play there and getting a running back, but again, not really forced on it. And I'm also curious to see like how far he will actually fall in some of these drafts. But I'm 15 picks away, and someone was just knocking at my door, so I'm gonna leave you on an island for a minute.
Okay.
And they like knocked like 3 times. I don't know why, so I'm gonna go make sure it's not like the police or something. Hopefully the police are at the door. Maybe I got swatted, but I'll be right back in 2 seconds.
All right, so fourth round, Josh Allen, Gabriel Davis, Hollywood Brown, Jerry Jeudy. And then there's Breece Hall, who goes middle of the fourth with the reports that Michael Carter is starting the season as the RB1, which I don't think is too shocking. Like, we've seen this happen time after time with rookie running backs. Like, and people forget Michael Carter's good. He was top 12 in missed tackles force last season. Top 12, I think it was 11th in rush attempts per broken tackle. Like, he was good last season. Breece Hall is probably going to be the lead back by like week 4 or 5, but I don't think it's too shocking to see Michael Carter right now, at least, as the running back one. It'll be interesting to see if Kyle can maybe get Patrick Mahomes. We'll see.
All right, I'm back. So good thing I went because it was actually something for the wedding that I needed to sign for. So if I would have missed that, I'd have been in trouble. So
yeah, you'd have been in trouble. Josh Jacobs, wow. Like, on the surface, for anybody that's like relatively new to fantasy this season or like hasn't paid attention to news, would be like, oh, Josh Jacobs, 4th round, almost 5th round, solid. But I think in terms of Underdog updated ADP, it was like 25, 30 spots ahead of where he usually goes.
Yeah, just for reference, in the draft I did this morning, I think he went in the 8th or 9th even.
Yeah.
So that's a reach, a big reach.
I was dreading the 12 spot, and I knew it was going to happen in this 3rd round where that tier break was going to happen, and I was going to hate my selection. But, like, I mean, Robinson and McLaurin aren't terrible, so.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely do worse, that's for sure. At least you have a running back, unlike me. No running back for me yet. And I'm kind of really, really hoping that Mahomes falls to me, but it's looking pretty unlikely at this point. So maybe that was
I mean, you have both of the Chiefs that go in the top 6 rounds, though. So, like, that's definitely helpful.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like somebody else has Juju on their roster and they say, okay, I'm going to pair him with Mahomes. Like, you still have, I would say, an okay shot. Lamar's still there, who I have ahead of Mahomes anyway. So, that's early for Brandon Ayuk, too. But I like Ayuk might be the wide receiver 1 this year for that team. It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, Ayuk, I think, went 7th round. So I wonder if we're seeing any differences based on I don't think so. I don't based on the format. I don't really think that would make sense. But yeah, definitely some earlier reaches with Jacobs and Ayuk there. We did see Isaiah Likely go in the 15th round earlier this morning.
That's interesting. I just finished the Ravens coaching and coordinator article today, and like the Ravens a couple years ago when they had Boyle at tight end who would block, they were like well above league average in terms of two tight end sets. And then the last couple years, they haven't had anybody behind Mark Andrews, and they've just been completely fallen off. I wonder if they go back to more two tight end sets this year, especially because after Rashad Bateman, they don't really have a lot of trustworthy wide receivers. So I'm still not convinced like Isaiah Likely is going to be anybody we're starting, but like in best ball, like maybe it's more appealing if they do go more two tight end sets, and he's obviously looked incredible in the preseason, so that definitely doesn't hurt.
Yeah, for sure. So
Look at
Mahomes
that.
does fall to me. So the plan works out.
So if this will be the second stream in a row where I like your team more than mine. Although I'm about to be super tilted in a second. Watch this. Guaranteed I get sniped on who I want right here.
Well, who are you looking for?
Chris Godwin.
Okay. I'm hoping to get AJ Dillon, so
All
hopefully.
right, nice. I did want Amon Ra too, but I'm gonna go Godwin, and you will not be getting AJ Dillon.
Oh,
I'm just gonna let you know that now.
just take Waller, man. Get that tight end.
Waller's might not play week 1, so I'm good on that. AJ Dillon is like, you want to talk about a teardrop. Like I have Dillon at like RB 20, 21. If Dillon's not there, I'm just hoping I can get the next tier for me that I like of like Ramondre, Chase Edmonds. I already had Barkley, but like I also already have 4 receivers. I don't have to, you know, there's none of the receivers that I have require me to take a quarterback yet for a stacking opportunity. Like I can get Dak later, I can get whoever later. So yeah, you can also blame whoever's before me because I was gonna go Amon Ra and Godwin, but yeah, I do like I liked my 4-5 turn or 5-6 turn, or whatever it was, a lot more than my 3-4 turn.
Yeah, I mean, David Montgomery is quickly becoming a flag plant for me, just because like I'm being forced into taking him a lot because it's like the same thing for Dylan. Like Dylan is always there in like the 6th, sometimes even the 7th round, and he's just a really good pick. But I mean, why Montgomery? I think he's just falling too much. This is a guy who, as the sirens go off in the back, excuse those. But if we knew what we were going to get from him, right? If we knew it was going to be RB1 work like it was the
If
last
it wasn't a
2
new
years.
regime, I wouldn't be worried about Montgomery at all. But it's a completely new regime.
Yeah.
Like that's what really. And then you get the reports, that they want to use multiple running backs this year. Then there was the special team stuff in Montgomery. Like if this was last year's regime, actually, if it was last year's regime, I wouldn't like any of the Bears actually because that was the worst offense ever. but like if it was not a completely new regime, I'd probably have more confidence in Montgomery than every running back in that range outside of probably AJ Dillon. But just it's tough too when you have every report from Gibson, Jacobs, Montgomery not favorable, but then Dillon, you're seeing Matt LaFleur comes out and says they have, Dillon and Jones are 1A and 1A, and that Jones or Aaron Rodgers said that both running backs can catch 50 passes. Like enough people don't realize how good AJ Dillon was in the passing game last year. 37 targets, caught 34 of them. He was top 12 in running backs and yards per out run. And this was somebody that wasn't used in the passing game at all coming out of college at Boston College. So everybody talks about the splits with Jones without Adams and how many catches he can have. Like AJ Dillon can have like 50 catches too, and I think he's going to be the goal line back. So probably my favorite running back to draft outside of I think I have my 2 favorite running backs to draft on my team, and just in terms of any spot in the draft, in Barkley and Dillon. So
I mean, I like Dylan a lot. Like I was talking to me about this on the show this morning. Like if I had to pick between which one I want to prioritize with their ADP obviously being involved, like obviously I take Aaron Jones straight up. But based on where they're going, if I can get AJ Dillon in the 7th versus Aaron Jones in the 2nd in a half-point PPR format, I prefer Dillon. But in terms of Montgomery, like we talked about this a little bit on Tuesday, Montgomery is just he's just falling too much in drafts. Like the upside is most definitely still there. If this hate is coming from the fact that it's a new regime and there's a chance that there's going to be 2 running backs worked in, which is likely for just almost every running back in the NFL, but
yeah,
especially outside of all the running backs past the second round, there's just so many guys who are going to be dealing with that anyway.
Like the
So
only
to get
running backs
Montgomery
that
in
you
the
can
sixth
legitimately
round, I'll
say
take that all day.
aren't going to lose touches, like nobody's gonna have 100% of touches, but like the running backs that you don't worry about really, competition for targets and touches at all are Barkley, McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor to an extent, at least in carries, but we know Nyheim Hines is going to play in the passing game. And then really like Henry, it's just he's not going to get a lot of targets in general, but he's not coming off the field on early downs. Like, but there, and then Dalvin Cook, like there's and Mixon, but Mixon's third down snaps were terrible last year. Like, so yeah, like it's hard to just say, okay, this running back is going to come off the field because all but like 5 or 6 running backs lose touches at some capacity anyway.
Yeah, I mean that, and if that's the only reason why Montgomery's falling, like, yeah, I definitely think that Herbert's going to be involved. But for Montgomery to be a 6th round pick, I mean that's just the reason why he's the most. I have no running back that I've drafted more than David Montgomery this year. He's my highest exposed
That's
running
scary.
back.
I will say that.
Yeah, but I mean,
But it's
it
based off
definitely is.
value
But in the
too.
6th round, like,
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot of risk compared to upside. Like, if Montgomery is what we've seen over the last 2 years, he's probably a 3rd or 4th round pick.
Yeah, he's had the last 2 seasons. He's literally ended each of the last 2 seasons as like the RB3 in fantasy, like the last 5 weeks. Like he's had crazy good stretches. A lot of it were matchup based, but like I don't care. Like and there's a chance like this is the last year of his contract. What if the Bears just say, you know what, this is the final year of his contract. We're gonna give him all the work, and then we'll go to Khalil Herbert and whoever's there next season. Like it's entirely possible. I just it's just such a tough range. But yeah, and there goes Damian Pierce. I actually thought he would go earlier than the end of the 6th round.
Yeah, I just grabbed him there. Actually, that was me.
Oh, that was you. Okay. So I like that. Yeah.
Meany got him in the 8th today, and he said, "Is that too early?" And I said, "I think in 2 days, his average draft position will be in the 6th.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the 6th round. So
I'm
get
on
him
the
at the back
clock.
of the 7th, I'll take that."
Ramondre's there and Tony are there. They're 2 of my favorite players. Tony is starting to worry me a little bit because of the injuries he's been dealing with. I'm going to take Ramondre, though, because this is not the huge contest whereas I would pretty much be done at running back for a while, but this isn't a huge contest where you have to maximize the upside. So I'm going to take Ramondre, then I'm going to stack Chris Godwin and Tom Brady. I could have waited and, got Dak, but I don't know if I want, like, if Brady and Dak are there, I'm just going to take Brady with the stack because I have Brady higher than Dak anyway, but now the Tyron Smith news. I know Brady said injuries to the offensive line too with Ryan Jensen, but yeah, I'm just, as we talked about the other day, I'm so high on Chris Godwin, where he's going. There's this chance he plays week 1. Even if he doesn't, okay, I have plenty of receivers to fill in, and then I have a top 12 receiver when Godwin's back. So,
yeah, and it sounds like Godwin might not miss a game. I mean, I don't think that's likely at this point, but it at least sounds like he has a chance to play week 1, which goes a long way for a season outlook, right? Like at one point, we were wondering, is this guy going to miss the first month and a half of the year? So
same with Gallup too. Gallup is probably not going to go on the PUP list, so he might miss week 1, but that would put him in line to play weeks 2, 3, or 4 to make his debut. So
yeah, I think Godwin's more likely to play earlier than Gallup, but just based on, and again, this is just based on
the timeline,
intuition, right?
Well,
and
also the timeline. Godwin tore his ACL like November, and Gallup's was the final week of the regular season. So
yeah, so I mean. But just for that news to sound so positive for Godwin after it sounded so negative in a lot of the parts of the offseason goes a long way, especially for a season-long outlook, right? So that's a big thing. But yeah, I ended up scooping up Rashad Penny. So my running backs are back to even with my wide receivers. So I don't mind the squad right now. I'm very high on Penny this year. You got him in our draft on Tuesday. I like Penny a lot. He's one of those guys that I definitely want more than I actually have been getting so far this season, just because of there's been so many receivers I've been taking in the middle portions of the drafts, especially in redraft where you see a little bit of differences in ADP. But Penny, I like quite a bit. I know you like Penny as well. So good to see that we add Penny to the team and kind of even out some of these running backs. What are your thoughts on Pierce? I'm curious. Obviously, everyone saw him last night in the preseason game. 6 carries, 37 yards, scored a touchdown. Looked good, looked explosive. I've been a big fan of this Houston offense, like their overall outlook over the course of the last I don't know, a couple months. They were one of my favorite stacks. Davis Mills is like my second most drafted quarterback in Underdog. So what are your thoughts on Pierce? You like him here still?
Yeah, I don't know how you can't. I mean, you look at last season, the Texans pretty much used a veteran running back at all points. It started with Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram was getting like 20 carries a game to start the season. He gets traded to the Saints. And then from weeks, I think it was 11 to 18, Rex Burkhead averaged around 17 carries per game. He was the RB20 in PPR scoring during that span. And Damian Pierce is better than Rex Burkhead. Like, we've seen it. Like, he's very explosive. His cutting ability has looked really good. He's been running through tackles. Lovie Smith is like infatuated with Damian Pierce. Remember, like yesterday, he starts the game with the first team offense. Burkhead was playing on passing downs, which could limit the upside a little bit, especially on a team that's going to be trailing. But the week before that, Lovie Smith and the Texans were like, "Yeah, Damian Pierce, you don't need to play. We already know that you're legit. You can just sit." And then they sat him the second preseason game. Then he started with the first team yesterday. So, yeah, like you said, Damian Pierce in a lot of like redraft leagues this weekend. This is a huge draft weekend. Probably going to be anywhere between a 5th and 6th round pick. And I think that's fine, especially if you're in like a 2 receiver league. Like, again, like I feel better about Pierce than I do about Jacobs and Gibson and Mitchell and probably Montgomery right now. So it's just like, yeah, I have no problem with that, honestly.
Yeah, and remember Kareem Hunt's rookie year where what was it?
Spencer
Ward?
Ware.
Spencer Ware. Yeah,
Spencer Ware went down, and then it was Kareem Hunt went from like a late round pick to like a 5th round pick.
Yeah, he just shot up, and I don't think it'll be as much of a snap rise as it was for Kareem Hunt. But that same kind of feel, right? And I feel like this happens to at least one player every year. I can't recall a name last year, but
Henderson last year.
Yep, that's a good one too. Or someone's, he's not a bad play. People are kind of on him, but then all of a sudden he has a good preseason game or whatever it may be, and they just shoot up the board, right? So here, there's actually a couple good options. TJ Hawkinson here, but I'm not going to go there because I have Kelsey. I think I'm gonna have to probably drop down a little bit. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go with a guy who I don't have much of.
Yep, I was looking at Lockett.
Yeah, and I talked about this with Meanie. I keep referencing this, so if you guys want to check that out, it's on our YouTube page. You can head over there. We did a draft this morning, and we talked a lot about Metcalf because Meanie took Metcalf, and then we talked about Amari Cooper, and Amari Cooper went off the board at wide receiver 45 in our draft this morning, and I was talking
45.
And I was talking about how I just don't really have a lot of interest in Cooper, and like I've done probably over 100 drafts now, and I have like 7% Amari Cooper, and when that's the case, it's like I feel like I should probably have more of him, right? But I couldn't really point out a reason why. Like I talked about how if I draft him in best ball, I'm pretty much expecting that I'm not going to get anything from him until week 13. So like when that's the case, his stock feels really low. But then I looked at my projections and I still have him as wide receiver 29 or whatever it is. So like for him to go at 45,
his target share was bad last year in Dallas. Like even like in an offense that's probably going to be bad for the first handful or first months of the season, he should pass the target share he saw last season. And like Amari Cooper gets open. Like, 45 is kind of insane. Like I moved him down to my rankings, I think yesterday to like wide receiver mid 30s. So like I obviously moved him down, but outside the top 40 seems kind of aggressive.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's so yeah, I have him at 31 in my projections. And like my rankings,
I think I had him at like 34 in my rankings, so right around the same spot.
And I think I tend to think that like my projections are pretty aggressive in terms of like I'm not, a lot of people will put their rankings based on a lot of like the public market, right? Like I don't look at any of that. But in terms of him and just who he's around, like he's not far off from Kadarius Toney for me. He's not far away from, a guy like Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy, I have a few spots ahead, but like Jerry Jeudy's a guy that I really like, and he's going in like the 5th round in Underdog draft, and I don't mind taking him. So why am I struggling to take Amari Cooper in the 7th or 8th round? So like those are the kinds of things that I need to fix as we have 2 weeks left, and a lot of them will probably be done on these kinds of live streams. So
yeah,
keep me in check. Make sure I take some Amari Cooper.
I So I went with my back-to-back spots. I debated Hawkinson, who just went off the board. He was falling. I needed a tight end, but Chase Claypool is like one of my most drafted receivers. I love the idea of him playing in the slot, which we've seen in the preseason. Look at his best career games. The majority of the production has come from when he's been in the slot because he's a mismatch. He's too tall. He's too fast. So I love getting Claypool. And then I was gonna go Hawkinson, but I was like, you know what? Let me just double down on Tampa Bay. Maybe Godwin misses the first week or two. I'll get Julio, who I think should still be good. Get that double stack with Brady, and I'll worry about tight end later. But I really did debate Hawkinson, who he goes usually in a range where it's like I don't want to draft Hawkinson because I can just draft Goddard a little bit earlier or whoever, Ertz, Komet, whoever a little later. But he did fall to a point where I was like, this is kind of nice, and I need a tight end, but I doubled down receiver.
Yeah, I tweeted yesterday that George Pickens has officially passed Claypool in ADP.
I think that's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I like George Pickens as a player too. He looks like
he's probably going to be the wide receiver one for that
athletes.
team next year. Like, he's insanely talented.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say it's definitely wrong because the Steelers run three wide as much as any team in football. It's been like over 70% each of the last 4 seasons. So, assuming that Matt Canada doesn't change the offense too much from last year with Roethlisberger gone, Pickens should be on the field a ton if they're continuing to run 3 wide sets. I just think Claypool, where he's going in drafts, I don't think Pickens, if you project him higher than Claypool, I don't think it's by enough to where the gap all of a sudden is an ADP. It's not a huge gap, but I think Claypool I'm fine with getting later because I like his potential out of the slot.
Yeah, let me see where I have those guys ranked right now. I'm pretty sure Claypool is higher, but I'm not that high in any of them. I do have Claypool higher than Pickens right now.
Claypool's going to get some carries too, which I like. Matt Canada loves using jet sweeps and reverses and motion. We've seen that with Claypool in this offense, even the year before Canada was the offensive coordinator. So yeah. I think Claypool is going to get in that Robert Woods type of Robert Woods in the Rams offense type of carries where he gets like 20 to 25 rushing attempts, and that'll add up. Like, especially on like where he's getting those carries, like those jet sweeps inside the 5, like they are very often just easy walking touchdowns. So like if Claypool scored like 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I mean, just for reference, my projections, I have him for about 20 carries, right around 100 yards, and 1.5 touchdowns.
There you go.
So yeah, I'm definitely accounting for that for Claypool. In terms of targets, the way I project them right now is 132 targets for Deontay, 95 for Claypool, about 80 for Pickens. So like there is a clear like pyramid here for me. It's just I don't expect the offense to be that good, and I might be a little bit too low on the offense in general because I do think Kenny Pickett is going to be fine, and I think even Trubisky is going to be fine too. But maybe I need to be a little bit higher on them. But I'm on the clock here. I think I'm going to go with Mr. Michael Gallup here. We talked about some positive reports.
He should be going higher now, for sure.
Yep, and he's one of those guys that early on in the offseason I got a pretty good amount of. I was going Gallup over Tolbert pretty frequently in Dallas stacks, and then I switched, and I was going Tolbert over Gallup for a while. So now I'll probably start getting some more Gallup exposure here. But you're on deck. Anything that in particular you're looking at?
Yeah, if I can get – oh, wait, never mind. I was going to say I'm going to love this team, but when we were talking, I didn't realize Cole Kmet went. I was going to stack Fields and Kmet. So that would have been awesome. I think I'm still going to take Fields here, though. Yeah, I'm going to take Fields, and then I'm going to go with another member of Tampa Bay. Kind of a more of a less popular stacking route. I'm going to take Rachaad White, just in case, we do see him involved in the passing game more than Fournette was, or not more than Fournette, but, more than the backups were last year behind Fournette. Fits my build, could use another running back, plus it fits the Brady correlation and stuff like that. And, yeah, if I would have got Kmet there too, as I continue to wait on tight end, that would have been just chef's kiss.
Yeah. I had a Brady and Evans stack this morning in the draft, and I was looking to get one of Gage or Julio, or worst case scenario, Rachaad White. And there was like 7 or 8 picks before my next one. All 3 of those guys were on the board. All 3 of them were drafted before my next pick. I'm gonna go with Daryl Henderson here. I was between him and Nyheim Hines. Tiebreaker, it's half-point PPR.
Yeah.
I'd take some value away from Hines. I still think Hines is fine in this format. Just don't like him as much.
If this was full PPR, Hines would be like a 10th rounder.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, like, I don't think we're seeing it in his ADP yet, but it feels like Hines is being talked up a lot.
He is.
So he's one of those guys that I think is
Did you see
going
what
to,
Frank Reich said like two
if
months ago?
he would draft him if he
Yeah.
was, yeah. That sounds really good, but like he's still behind Jonathan Taylor, and I know he's going to get worked in on passing downs and all that stuff. But if this guy starts getting like completely steamed to where he's like a single digit round pick, like that is just too much for me. And I feel like if this was full point PPR, he would. Um,
Hmm.
but again, it's half point, so I guess it's just a hypothetical. But one of those guys that I do think we might have to keep an eye out for, who might get a little bit
Like
too much love.
Paris Campbell's healthy right now. He's going to start at slot receiver. Like he's obviously missed a ton of games. If he misses time again, I wonder if the Colts just say, you know what, let's just play Nyheim Hines at slot, and Philip Lindsay will be the backup to Jonathan Taylor, and we'll be good from there. Because like Nyheim Hines, you can make the case, is the second best receiver on this team. Like I like Alec Pierce a lot, not
Yeah.
receiver, but like he might be the most consistent second receiving option. But yeah, like it's half PPR, so like, I would agree. Like that does make the tie between like Henderson and if Kenneth Walker were healthy, that's why Kenneth Walker's still on the board is he's just not healthy right now. I don't understand the Albert O ADP either. Tight end 13, like he was playing in the fourth quarter in their last preseason game. Denver's been talking up Greg Dulcich. At best, Albert O could be like third on this team in targets. That's at best. I don't think the only teams I've drafted Albert O on have been Russell Wilson teams where I miss out on Judy or earlier in the offseason Tim Patrick and I just pair him with Sutton and then I see Albert O there. But like other than that, I've not drafted Albert O at all.
Yeah, I haven't been drafting a lot of Albert O either, but I also can't help but feel as if it's potentially one of those Jamar Chase things where there's a lot of bad reports and then it ends up him just being the guy there. Like,
The difference being Jamar Chase is a generational talent and Albert
yeah.
O is a good player.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like it's like
Yeah.
the media catches one thing, right? And there's just they all like just vulture to it, right? And obviously it was even more with Jamar Chase. And it was just ridiculous. Like somebody actually had the audacity to type an article saying Jamar Chase can't catch. Like that is just insane. It's a little bit more like we're seeing it because Albert
You know who
O
else
did
couldn't
play
catch
4
for a while?
quarters.
The best receiver in the NFL, Devonta Adams.
Yeah.
Like
But like it happens with everybody, right? Like it's happening with Treylon Burks, like whether it pans out or not. But like it happens all the time to multiple guys every single year, where it could be really positive reports out of training camp, and then they ended up not getting any playing time, or really negative reports from camp, and then they ended up, that none of that stuff matters. So I will say the fact that we saw Alberto play 4 quarters in a preseason game doesn't bode well. But I also think that that's just strange in general because like even
yeah.
backups, like even third stringers, like they don't play 4 quarters. So like, even yesterday, for example, like we saw Jawan Winfrey. He didn't even get the full game, right? And he's not going to really be competing for a starting job. So I do believe Hackett when he says that he just wants to get Albert O reps for him to improve. But it does feel like there's a lot of signs here. But then again, if Albert O is the starting tight end and he is third in targets in a Russell Wilson-led offense, there's monster upside there. So I still don't mind taking shots on him here when possible. I'm just gonna do it.
I saw you hover over the tight end icon. I was like, he's gonna just draft him, isn't he?
I might as well, right? I talked about him enough. I might as well take a stab there. That's going to be it for my tight ends. I'm going to go Kelsey and Alberto, most likely, unless there's one late.
Damn.
So hopefully Alberto has a good matchup there in week 8 where Kelsey's on bye.
Mike Gesicki's still on the board. Doesn't fit the offense. There's been trade reports. I'm going to take Gerald Everett. I could just double down, honestly. That might be the move, actually. Like, I don't love Gesicki, but like, say he gets traded to, I don't know, say he gets traded to Carolina or Dallas or Green Bay. Green Bay is probably unlikely, but like a team that could use a tight end. It's gonna be a 3 tight end build for me anyway. I don't love it, but worst case he gets traded and because like I didn't like him on Miami. Like he's as soon as they signed Cedric Wilson, I was like, oh, Gesicki, who's been like 80% slot, is not going to play in the slot as much. So how's he going to get on the field? Then there's been the reports that they're going to ask him to block more, which he hasn't done, and you have to block in a Mike McDaniel offense. So that was a draft pick of like I'm going to have a 3 tight end build anyway. Couple tight ends went right before me, and maybe he gets traded to a team where he can have a more consistent role for fantasy. Carolina would be kind of nice.
Yeah, Carolina would be nice. That would be a good fit there.
Especially Mayfield's been very, very open to targeting tight ends. Oh, to be fair, he's played in Cleveland where they use 3 of them, but
Yeah. So I think I'm going to go with Jamal Williams here. I have a lot of Tyler Algier already. Like I think he's my second most drafted running back, mainly because he's been free for a lot of the draft season. But I guess I'd like Algier's upside a little bit more than Jamal Williams. Like Jamal Williams probably needs a DeAndre Swift injury, which I definitely do not want because I have a ton of DeAndre Swift. So again, but in terms of someone just outright winning the job over without any injuries needed, I think Algier is probably more likely to do that. But let's go back to Gesicki for a minute because I'm curious. Is there any way that you think that maybe that, like we talked with Albert O, that just these negative reports come and this guy's he's plummeted. Like he was a tight end 7 at one point last year, like in terms of rankings and stuff like that.
yeah, he's finished top 8, I believe, in each of the last 2 seasons. My problem is it's more of a personnel / scheme issue with Gesicki that I was worried about, initially. Like because you're not taking Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle off the field. So in 2 wide receiver sets, they're on the field. In 3 wide receiver sets, I think Cedric Wilson is now the slot receiver. So it's like, where does Gesicki fit in? Plus, they like to use Durham Smythe and Adam Shaheen as well to block, which they did last year before they had Mike McDaniel when they didn't run the ball well or much at all. So now they're going to definitely run the football more. So I just don't think he fits schematically. So like again, there's always one selection in every draft where like, yeah, I didn't love that. I was not excited about that. That was mine. But all of a sudden things change. Like if you told me right now Mike Gesicki was traded to Green Bay or Carolina or somewhere else, like he'd be a top 10 tight end for me pretty easily. Right now he's not, but it was more so just me needing a tight end because I was going to have a 3 tight end build anyway.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like I think there's a chance that again it's such a public driven market.
Yeah, I mean maybe Gesicki is just a slot receiver and Cedric Wilson doesn't play as much as I think.
Yeah, or maybe it's just a mix of both, where like not many tight ends are out here in the 14th round or the 13th round, wherever you got them, getting slot reps.
Right.
So say Gesicki even gets 35-40% of his snaps in
instead
the slot.
Of the 80, right?
Yeah, like that's still a good chunk compared to someone like I don't know Irv Smith who's going to play probably 0, right, or not a lot. So there's definitely guys in this range, and he's fallen now so much that there's a chance that he's just able to still be a value here. So again, one of those guys that we talked about that the market might have just dropped him so much because of media and camp reports, which again, to your point, does sound a little bit more worrisome with the actual concern here being the scheme rather than something from about a player, but definitely still possible in my opinion. So that's the kind of stuff that I like to look at, especially in these best balls, not necessarily this draft because it's a different format, but in the mania when you're going against so many people, like going against the grain, it can go a long way because there's so many things that we're all going to be so wrong about.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like group thought and how everyone's saying, oh, this player's done or this team's not going to be good or whatever, or this team is going to be really good and they end up not being that good. Like there's so many spots where the public's just going to be way wrong. So sometimes just even if you don't really have a great inclination on it, going against them can just go so far.
Best pick of the draft right there.
Marvin Jones. I took Zack Moss in a draft this morning, and Meanie gave you a little shout out. I said you'd be happy about that. Zack Moss, 18th pick.
He honestly probably should start going the 17th or 18th instead of being undrafted because he has been the most consistent goal line running back for the Bills in camp.
I've been taking a lot of Zack Moss lately.
I just don't want to see it because, as everybody knows, I am the #1 fan of Devin Singletary. So,
yep, I like Singletary a lot too. I have a lot of Singletary and I have a lot of Zack Moss, and I also have I wouldn't say a lot, but I have enough James Cook to where it's like, all right, I have some James Cook, so I have a lot of Buffalo running back. exposure, whether it be whoever. But yeah, like in the last round, Zack Moss, like there's just been. I'm gonna take Raheem Mostert here, Vlad Sedler's guy. But in terms of Moss, like there's been so much uncertainty around the running back position in Buffalo for the past 3 years, probably even longer than that. But it's with this group of guys, like Singletary had a good year last year. Doesn't really necessarily feel seen or shown, I guess, by the front office. They drafted a running back fairly early in the draft. Zack Moss still there. Now he's getting some good reports out of camp and preseason stuff. So, I mean, hey, if you get him in the 18th round and he has one game where he scores 2 touchdowns, I'll probably consider that as paying off his price tag.
I'm going to reach because I'm on the that's the thing, like it's not like you can't reach, like it's fine, but it's even more relevant when you're where I'm at, where you're at the turn and I'm not picking for so long. So taking my favorite tight end draft, Brevin Jordan. He'll be my third tight end. Just all in. I think he is the sleeper tight end of the season. And if he is a top 12 guy, like I think he has the opportunity to be, then I'll have a lot of good teams, I think.
So how high are you on this Houston offense? Would you say you think they can be above average this year, or you think that they can just be a good fantasy unit?
I think their ceiling in terms of rankings of NFL offenses, their best case scenarios would be like the 19th, 18th best offense. You know what I mean? Like slightly below average. But that's a step forward from where they were last year. So if that's the case, like Brevin Jordan could be top 12. We know Cooks is going to be, top 25 most likely. Like I think they can have Cooks be a wide receiver 2, Pierce be a running back 2, and Jordan be a low end tight end 1. Especially because being a low end tight end 1 doesn't require you to be that good anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the end of the day, I talk about all the time with tight ends that go in the late rounds, I'm looking for players that are talented, run routes, and have a chance to be second on the team in targets. And Brevin Jordan, that's literally, that's the case with him this season. So, and he's been playing a ton with the first team. So, yeah, like there's been some talk about the other tight ends, Pharaoh Brown playing like cool. He's gonna block. Like I don't want Brevin Jordan out there on plays. He's gonna block anyway. I want him running routes. It's all I care about with tight ends.
Yeah, that's fair.
Hooper's another player too in that same range. Like there's a couple tight ends that go late that have a chance to be second on the team in targets. I think Brevin Jordan's one, Hooper's one, and then a couple rounds ago, but David Njoku is the other one.
Yeah, I like Hooper quite a bit. Like we've seen tight ends with Tannehill be able to flash some upside fairly frequently, honestly. So
remember the Anthony Ferkser hype last season?
Yeah,
I was kind of buying it. Like it's just like they have Todd Downing there, former tight ends coach for the Titans, and then a couple years before that was Arthur Smith, who was the offensive coordinator, was also the former tight ends coach of the Titans. So like it's a tight end centric offense, and Hooper is better than Ferkser. Like he'll be way more involved than Ferkser was last year. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I like Hooper, especially in stacks with Tannehill. No problem with that at all. So, and in terms of like sleeper tight ends, like it feels like it's fairly important to talk about, especially in best ball, because there's just so many times where like you don't even have a chance to get a top tight end. There's just they just go so quickly. Like if you can look at it, and if you could be in the second pick of the third round, and 3 tight ends are gone already. With Andrews, Kelsey, and Pitts all being gone in the first two rounds. Like even Pitts now squeaking up to the top 2 rounds at times, in like late second round, more so a third round pick, but in general he has the possibility to do that. So it is kind of important to talk about some of these late tight ends. That's for sure.
Logan Thomas, if he starts the season, I kind of like too. Like
Yeah,
we've seen him productive in this offense. Carson Wentz is also hyper targeted tight ends. He's been in 2 schemes that have been Frank Reich and then obviously Doug Peterson, where that's all they do is throw to tight ends. But still, like you have Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, and then you have question marks at receiver. And as talented as Jahan Dotson, it's not like he's a guaranteed lock to be an every week consistent receiver for this team. So if Logan Thomas is healthy, like he's definitely interesting too. I should probably start drafting him more in builds like this, where I am looking at 3 tight ends and I'm looking for a late round tight end, because we've seen him be not just like viable, but like a top 10 tight end when he's been on the field. It's just he's had back-to-back pretty rough injuries.
Yep. Yep, I agree with that too. Any other names you want to throw out in terms of like some super sleepers?
I like drafting Dolchich. I drafted him in our last one as my tight end too. I want to like Jonnu Smith because he's so good. And there's
Yeah.
been reports that New England's going to use him more, which they should because they paid him a ton of money and he's really good at football. So I've been warming up to him, but like Hunter Henry's clearly been the red zone option for this team. So I kind of wish Jonnu Smith was on the Titans still because I would absolutely draft him everywhere. He's so good. And they started the season giving him like some carries and they were utilizing him in the screen game and then just completely disappeared. Like he's an incredible blocker too. So that was a huge part of their offense too because they run the ball so much with a lot of power schemes. But man, like they do have a new offense, whatever it might look like with Josh McDaniels gone. So hopefully we see more Jonnu Smith this year because he is fantastic. I'm on the clock. I'm going to take a running back here. I'm going to take Ernest Johnson because I love drafting him because if he gets traded or if, it doesn't sound like Kareem Hunt's going to get traded, but Ernest Johnson is straight up really good at football, I think. And then I'll close it out with a receiver that I have no clue who I'm looking at here. I will take... Yikes. You know what? This is a very... Take Velus Jones. Why not? I have Justin Fields. Hopefully he carves out a role as a number 2 receiver on that team. Also just didn't have enough time to keep scrolling down. But probably should have taken like Noah Brown or somebody. Noah Brown could be the Dallas's like wide receiver 2 or 3 for the first couple weeks. But with Gallup not being on the pup, it's not as exciting. So whatever. I like my team.
Yeah. I'm on the board now. We're on the clock now, I should say. I think I'm gonna go AJ Green here. Hopefully you can just get a couple pop weeks in the first 6 weeks with Hopkins out. 18th round pick. I actually don't like I kind of wish I had more depth at quarterback and tight end, but it's just so hard to justify like taking them because like the thing is, if you draft Mahomes or Kelsey, you're spending so much draft capital on them to where it's like you need them to have a good year, or else your team's just not going to be good
Right.
anyway.
Especially when you stack.
Yeah, and especially in best ball, like there's really something to say for like if they miss, you just miss. Like it's just simple as that. Your team's just not going to be good. So it's hard to spend a bunch of capital on that, especially then when I don't have any running backs until the 4th round or 5th round, I think. No, 6th round actually when I took Montgomery. But yeah, so that's another strategy too. Like it comes down to a point where it's like when you're building these teams, and that's why it's good to do multiple because if you're building a Justin Herbert stack, and if the Chargers don't have a good year, or knock on wood, something happens there health wise, that team's just done. It's just that simple.
Right.
Like you're just not recovering from that, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to draft a ton of quarterbacks behind them. But for that instance, like it was Mahomes and Watson. Those are my only 2 quarterbacks. So for the first 12 weeks, Mahomes is the guy. So that's another downside there. So kind of wish I would have taken another quarterback, but hey, all about the upside in the later parts of the year, I guess.
Yeah. I like my team more today than I did the other day for sure. So I'm not mad.
Yeah, let's see if I can pull up the board here. I always mess up. I don't know how to pull up the board. Let me see here. All right, so the draft has 2 picks left, and then I'll pull up the board. We can kind of run through them there. But let's talk about our first round picks here. Obviously, I went with Devonta Adams. Who'd you end up going with for your first round?
Saquon.
Okay. All right, we have the board up now. Let's pull up the board. Here we go. All right, so Saquon Barkley, you took him at the 12 spot. I had Adams. So you went with Saquon and CeeDee Lamb. I like that start. I have CeeDee Lamb as a top 5 receiver this year. I have him as my 5th receiver, which is, I think, higher than most. I don't really look around the industry that much for season.
I feel like the consensus for him is right after Adams and Diggs. So yeah, probably like 6, 7.
Okay. I actually have him in front of Adams. I have Adams at 7 this year, which is lower than most people, that's for sure. But his upside is also higher than than most. Like in terms of if I was ranking these guys based on ceiling, he'd probably be fourth, fifth. Be Cup, Jefferson, Chase, Diggs, and Adams probably tied. So yeah, I guess I'm probably a little bit lower on Adams from a standard outlook, but higher on Lamb than a lot of people. So I love the Lamb pick. So talk about starting those two guys and then the rest of your team here.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you drafted Adams ahead of Lamb then.
Yeah.
But yeah, once I took Barkley, I knew I was going to just go receiver heavy, so I did that with Lamb, Robinson, McLaurin, which, again, like if DJ Moore didn't go right before me, I would love this team even more. A lot of people ask why I didn't take, Jalen Waddle where I took Robinson or McLaurin. I'd have him behind those receivers, so it's kind of as simple as that. But then I went Robinson, McLaurin, Godwin, just continue to take receivers. I'm just talking about this the other day, but I'm very high on taking Godwin, in the middle of the 5th or 6th round right now, because if he plays week 1, if we get any word, like say we get word in a week that Godwin's going to be ready for week 1, he will be a 3rd round pick at least. So I like getting him there. And then, the rest of my receivers, I love getting Claypool and Julio Jones on that next turn after I took A.J. Dillon and Ramondre. Stacked or paired Julio with Brady and Godwin. And then took Zay Jones and Velus Jones as my last 2 receivers for 8 receivers. And then tight end, I knew I was going 3 once I waited. Gesicki, Gerald Everett, and Brevin Jordan. Hopefully, if Brevin Jordan hits like I think he can, I'll be fine. But if 2 of those 3 hits, I'll be in really good shape. But really, realistically, all I need is 1 of those tight ends to hit. And then backed up Brady with Justin Fields. Almost got Cole Kmet to pair with him, which would make me, again, love this team even more. And then, running backs, Barkley, Dillon, Ramondre. So I've literally 3 of my favorite 5 running backs to draft. And then Rachaad White also pairing with the Bucks, has some, upside in case Fournette misses time, but also could get some, standalone work potentially. And then Ernest Johnson.
Yeah, so you did take AJ Dillon from me. I wanted AJ Dillon over Montgomery, and I also wanted Ramondre Stevenson, but I ended up getting Rashad Penny. So I'm fine with that too. Like I like Pierce a lot. I like Penny a lot. I like Montgomery where he's going, and like I'm kind of just forced to like him now. Like I have so much Dave Montgomery. Like he is by far my highest drafted running back right now, which is sort of scary. We talked about that, but yeah, obviously loaded up on the wide receivers early and the pass catchers, Kelsey in the 2nd round. Was able to complete the Kansas City stack. Luckily, I would have been pretty annoyed if I wasn't able to get Mahomes, but he fell to me, so that was good. So yeah, I like the team. Like I drafted a lot of really players from really good teams that I think that I can count on here. So you can see my first 5 picks, all AFC West players: Adams, Kelsey, Keenan, Juju, and
It's
Mahomes.
probably the division to do that in, though.
Yeah, I think there's something to say about that, right? Like it's probably going to be a good action-packed division. Probably going to be, they play each other twice, so all teams play each other twice. So I think there's probably going to be a lot of shootouts there. So yeah, I like that spot quite a bit in terms of targeting some players from that division. And plus, I think like all of those teams in that division are really good from a fantasy perspective. But then with the running backs, I kind of flipped that. I went for 3 running backs, all on what are expected to be bad teams: Montgomery, Pierce, Rashad Penny. I ended up getting Henderson and Jamal Williams, and as well as Raheem Mostert, who Mostert's getting a lot of buzz thanks to Vlad Sedler. What are your thoughts on that situation? Do you like Mostert?
I mean, I love the fit. Obviously, he's very familiar with the offense. I'm just a lot higher on Chase Edmonds, but like we haven't seen Chase Edmonds get, a full workload. So like Mostert, like we know he fits the offense, and if he succeeds in it, which he easily could, he's still the fastest running back in the NFL. And in a zone scheme, like he just hits the hole and goes. So I'm fine with Mostert. I do like Edmonds more, and it sounds like the Dolphins have him as the RB1, but it's not like Chase Edmonds is going to get 25 touches a game. Like he'll probably max out at like 16, 17.
Yeah, exactly.
If that.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing there. Like I don't really think that he's going to be just a complete workhorse. Like he's not going to be Derrick Henry, right? Just like I know like the big thing is, oh, he's getting paid twice as much as everyone else on the team, right? Yes, that's true. And that does point to like his security in terms of his
He was
role.
like the first player signed in free agency. Like
First
like,
running
that's
back,
definitely telling that he was high on their radar.
100%. But that doesn't lock him into to 20 touches a game. Like, he's just not that kind of back, right? Like, he's probably not going to handle that every single game. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Sony Michel or I don't know anything about their contracts, like what it would save the team, but wouldn't be surprised to see those guys cut. At least one of them.
One of those running backs is getting cut, whether it's Gaskin or Ahmed or maybe Michelle.
Yeah.
The only question I have is who's the goal line running back?
If Michelle gets cut, like, I feel so much better about
Sure.
the chances of Mostert, Edmonds like having a really good year. And I actually think that for Mostert being the RB2, like, it could be a good thing for him. Like, guy's been good every time he's been on the field all his entire career. It's just about health. So if he can stay healthy, maybe you get a little bit less work. And again, like, going here in the, what was it, the 14th round, 15th round where I got him, it's nothing, right? Like,
the weird thing is, like, Edmonds hasn't been a goal line back in his career. Mostert has a little bit, but a lot of the times with San Francisco, Jeff Wilson would come in as the goal line back. So that's really what I'm interested in. Edmonds is going to be the pass catcher running back. We know that. Yep. He's probably going to start the games. But, like, the goal line back is what I'm really interested to see. Who, like, it could be Sony Michel if he makes the team. Like, it's entirely possible.
I do think if I had to guess right now, it would be Sony Michel. Just based on, again, like, this has nothing to do with anything I've seen. It's just based on who they are as running backs. And that could be completely wrong. Like, I definitely think that Michel would be the best goal line back just because I think he's the biggest bruiser out of the bunch. But if he's gone, I think Mostert's probably in line for it, which is going to be a lot of value on an offense I think is going to be pretty good. So I think that they're going to score a good amount. So, yeah, Mostert, definitely don't mind taking a shot at him. I also took stabs at Corey Davis and AJ Green at the end there. I was really kind of up back and forth on a guy like Corey Davis, but again, like, he's probably just going to be around all year long, so that's good to have. Like, he's going to be on the team all year. He's going to have a role all year. He's not one of those guys that you might just get nothing from. And I think
Denzel Mims requested a trade too, so it's like there's no one behind Corey Davis. So
yeah, so like, I think that there's a lot of guys who get drafted late who literally might not play at certain points. Like, Kyle Phillips, Nick Westbrook-Ikine, like, one of those two guys could easily just not play towards the end of the year. That's probably not going to happen with Corey Davis. So getting guys like that at the end of the draft, don't hate. But that's going to be it for the draft. Anything else that you want to comment on or anything?
No, I'm just honestly at this point, I'm ready for the season to start. Like, I've already been starting week 1 stuff, so I'm ready.
Yep, I'm with you there. Did some week 1 prize pick prop plays, which is live on the YouTube channel now. So if you guys want to go check that out, head over there, give that a like. We do appreciate that a ton. We got a lot of prize pick stuff coming out now that we have football coming up, and we're still going to have baseball and college football, and preseason's going on right now. Obviously, preseason won't be going on when week 1's going on. You guys get the point. Multiple prize picks videos are probably going to be coming out here and there, so stay tuned for those. But yeah, that's going to do it for us. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll probably be back with some more of these next week throughout the course of the week. And again, we have 2.5 weeks now until that opening kickoff. So I'm sure it'll be
13 days.
Look at you. You got the counter ready and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're getting ready for it. That is for sure. So we'll be back with some more of these prior to the season starting. Maybe get some guests on here, have you guys hop in the drafts as well. But appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you guys next time. Good luck in all of your preseason and your redraft leagues. We'll see you guys next time.